Good morning.
Good morning.
Caroline White
Huarte.
Huarte. Yes. The conversation today is gut health.
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot more than that. I'm sure there's a whole level of
Yes.
complexity. Those viral words like gut brain and the gut brain connection.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can explain that a little
Yeah.
bit further about this whole
Absolutely.
industry you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I am having you on the show because it feels like everybody I talk to
Yeah.
has a gut problem
Mhm.
of some sort.
Yeah.
On
On a spectrum, right? Could be just like a mild indigestion occasionally versus like severe.
Yes.
Like-
I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like they're trying to do something about
Mhm.
it. I don't see if there is some kind of a black and white kind of formula to fix it,
Yeah.
or is there?
Yes and no. I mean, I always tell people the work that I do is bio-individual, right? So everybody comes to me with a different circumstance, right? A different sex, age,
Right.
genetic makeup, cultural background, their activity level, the stage of life that they're in. Those are all things that are going to impact what your body needs
Mental level.
nutritionally, right? From a nutritional standpoint. So obviously, like a pregnant woman needs something different than a geriatric male, right? So we have to kind of keep those things in mind as to what the body needs in terms of its basic macronutrients, carbs, proteins, fats, and also the micronutrients, right? All the vitamins and minerals that we consume every day. And then I think, on a deeper level, when we look at gut stuff, there could be a host of things that are going on. There could be viruses or parasites or, just different overgrowth of
Yes.
good versus bad bacteria. And, and it's different in every person. And so.
Well, you work with, you mentioned you work with kids, autistic kids? Or?
I have in the past. So my background is a clinical psychologist and a behavior analyst. I worked in the applied behavior analysis and psychological field, mental health, providing behavior therapy in homes and schools for kids mostly on the autism spectrum.
How do you tackle people who are from a different country? Because they come here, let's say to the US, right? They're used to certain diets for thousands of years from wherever they are. And how do you tackle that?
I mean, I think our cultural heritage plays a role in the foods that our body sort of does better with. So I think we have to, even for someone who maybe is born and grows up in the United States, that's still a factor for them, right? If their cultural heritage is, from Sweden or something, let's say. But, I think, my whole premise is like, we really need to move away from what we call the standard American diet, right? Or the SAD diet, I like to call it, right? So in the United States, especially, as well as some other, developed European, like the UK and other nations like that are kind of following suit to where we are, right? They're starting to consume way more heavily processed foods, fast foods. So things are chock full of sugar, colors, additives, preservatives, trans fats. So these are all the things that are degrading our health.
How are you dealing with when clients come to you? There are, it seems to me, there are thousands of diets out there.
Yeah.
Do this, don't do this, do this. It's like this funny clip that I saw on my wife sent it to me. She goes, this guy watching all of these different opinions, eventually just eats ice.
Yeah.
It's like, so how do you, I don't know, you tell me.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's that bio-individuality, right? So like for some people, like you hear now, like go carnivore, go vegetarian, go keto, go do all these things, right? For some people, keto can be incredibly beneficial. For some people, going carnivore can be beneficial. Are any of these like long-term solutions that you should be on the rest of your life? I don't necessarily think so.
It's a time.
Yeah. So like the carnivore diet in particular can be incredibly helpful for people who have severe like gut issues and reactions to a host of different foods. Like sometimes you just need to like cut out everything. I mean, it's almost like a severe elimination diet, but you're still keeping in those like quality animal proteins. And then that gives the gut a chance to heal. But what you're missing is all the prebiotic fiber and the micronutrients and the polyphenols from the brightly colored fruits and vegetables that like feed your good gut bacteria that's going to make your microbiome robust. So
what if I tell you, why don't you just not eat? For like and what if everybody just does? I keep hearing about this whole fasting thing, right?
Yeah.
I've done it. I think my longest was like 5 days. I'm actually talking to a buddy of mine who's a chef. He doesn't want to come on the show. I'm trying to get him. Because he's fast for like 49 days. My
brother's done it I think 21 days was his longest fast.
Is there value in that? What's the damage?
Yeah. So I think I'll preface this first just because I tend to work with a lot of women. Mm-hmm. The research on fasting is done primarily on males, right?
No kidding.
So we know that there's some great stuff that comes from fasting, right?
Why only on males?
Well, I mean, maybe don't quote me, right? There's some maybe starting to be done on females, but like as the case with most of the research throughout history, like the focus has been on males, but that's somehow then applied to everyone. So fasting for some individuals can be incredibly helpful for managing blood glucose levels, getting metabolism in check, for weight loss, autophagy. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, right? Yeah. So like mitochondrial health and like, it's the body's way of kind of eating away at sick cells in the body so that we can sort of quote unquote heal ourselves in a way. So there's some great research to support that. In women, it's really different. So, we don't just have a 24-hour circadian cycle that we're following. We have a cycle that's all over the place throughout the month, right? And hormones at different levels. So fasting can actually be incredibly detrimental to hormonal production, especially in like childbearing years, right? We want to make sure that the body's not in a state of starving ever, that we want to make sure that the body knows it's nourished so that it can support,
So the top things you're looking for first is sex, age, culture.
Yeah, those things definitely. I mean, more to the point is like your activity level, right? Like if you're doing CrossFit every day, your protein and carbohydrate and fat needs are going to be different than, a 16-year-old teenager who, is playing video games all day or whatever. But, and then like, again, if someone's like looking at conception or something, or if a couple's trying to get pregnant, those needs are very different, right? Making sure you're getting all the quality nutrients that are going to support egg health and sperm health and all of those things. So, so it's, a lot. And then, when I do an assessment with somebody, I use a questionnaire called the Nutritional Assessment Questionnaire. And it's subjective in some ways that a client is filling this out on symptoms or things that they may experience on a Likert scale. So it's subjective in terms of their rating, but it's their rating against everything else themselves. And what it does is it gives me this beautiful graph of where they are functioning at that current snapshot in time in terms of what I consider the foundations of health. So the foundations being digestion. How optimally is your digestive system working in a north to south fashion, which we could probably do an entire podcast just on what that is. So north to south, digestion actually starts in the brain, and then that triggers saliva to be released, and specific enzymes are in your saliva that start the breakdown of food, which then triggers stomach acid to be produced, right? So
somebody's working on their brain?
Well, no. So like when you see food or you smell food or you think about, gosh, I'm hungry, and then you start thinking about something that you want to eat, that's going to start causing you to release. Like if I tell you to think about a juicy lemon right now, you'll salivate, right? So that process kickstarts this whole chain of reaction that happens in your body to produce stomach acid and digestive enzymes and bile to be released. And if you don't have enough of all those things, you're not going to break down food the way that you're supposed to. And when undigested food is moving through your system, that's going to cause damage to your small intestine. And additionally, if you're eating foods that potentially you're allergic or intolerant to, that can cause an immune reaction in your system. And then we get to the large intestine, where that's really the home of the microbiome. So we want that to be functioning well, right? And not have dysbiosis or like an overgrowth of, poor quality bacteria versus the commensal happy bacteria. And then, so this is a whole chain, north to south.
Are you saying you do some...
Some of it is mental work. Absolutely. I mean, if someone comes to me with a history of disordered eating, right? And I think especially this is the case with many women that come to see me. They've had a history of like restricting food and yo-yo dieting to fit like some societal like standard of what they should be, right? And so even just the act of me having someone keep a food journal can be very triggering for someone who's like counted every calorie and like, tried to burn that all off on the treadmill every day.
Right.
So anyway, but like, so foundations of like making sure that that digestive system is working optimally, the gut is in check, working on blood sugar regulation, right? Part of this whole standard American diet is we're eating all these very heavily processed and packaged foods that wreak havoc on our blood glucose levels. We're constantly up and crashing and up and down and up and down. Whereas blood sugar really should be more of like an even ripple throughout the day versus these big waves, right?
I do understand that there's obviously a clear connection. It's one body between the mind and the gut.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to kind of like, I want to say, find a quick, not a quick, but a all-encompassing solution here and say, where do we start first? Would you say that the first is the mind with the American, the current Western world approach to life and like this quickness, being on the phone, everything's always...
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. Yeah. So what we know is that stress dramatically impacts your digestive process and your gut health. High stress and being in this like high cortisol state constantly, right? Like our ancestors, like they were stressed out like that when a saber-toothed tiger was coming, and then he'd leave and you'd be okay. You'd either be dead or you'd be okay. And then the stress levels would drop again and you'd be back to normal. But now we're like in this constantly elevated, stressed out state, right? Where we're rushing in traffic to get to work, and we've got to make sure that we do this for our kids and, et cetera. So yeah, that is going to diminish your stomach acid dramatically, which is going to impair how well you break down and digest and assimilate your nutrients. So that's a big part of it. Part of it too is just educating yourself about like what really is healthy, right? So we're bombarded with these messages from social media and big pharma about this is good for you. No, this is bad for you. No, this is good for you and that's bad for you. Like eggs, coffee. What can I even have anymore, right? Like you said, you're down to eating just ice cubes. So, I think as much as we can kind of steer away from things in brightly colored packages with ingredients that we can't pronounce, like we really should be buying the majority of our food. Like it shouldn't have a label. You know what I mean? Apples don't have a nutrition facts label. Sweet potato. Yeah.
You have those treats that, let's say they say, only whole ingredients.
Right. Right. Well, a lot of it is marketing, and there's certain things that you can claim. You have to kind of know, like, what does all natural mean, right? How does something become certified gluten-free, right? There's processes behind that. But ideally, as much as we can stick to foods in their natural state, right? Quality proteins, fruits, vegetables, organic if we can, but that's not always the case, right? So,
but still, that depends on the person's own.
Yeah. So like for myself in particular, like eggs are amazing. They're so health promoting, right? If you get good quality pasture raised eggs. I am allergic to eggs. It's such a bummer. I can eat them if they're baked into something, but if I just have scrambled eggs, I will be in the bathroom vomiting all day. And it's a bummer. But that's my unique.
Is there a way to change that?
I mean, here's the thing. I've done a lot of work, and at this point I may be able to eat them. In terms of my gut integrity, I don't know if I ever really want to try them again at this point, just on their own, because,
yes.
It was not fun. So, here we are. But, so there's always going to be something.
So it is a physical reaction. That's not a mental reaction.
Oh, no.
It's a physical reaction.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you think about all those tests now they're doing, right? You can test for this, you can test for that,
Yeah. I mean, there's tons of tests to look at, different food allergens and intolerances and things. I did a bunch of testing a year or two ago with my daughters, and we found out that she has a severe autoimmune reaction to gluten. So that's no longer in her diet. And that's just not something that I don't think we will ever introduce back in, because she has the genetic markers for celiac disease.
Right.
So,
is it any gluten though? Because I hear people telling me they go to Europe and they have their food breads there, they're fine.
Yeah. So I think the whole gluten issue here in the United States, some of it may in fact be the actual gluten proteins, right? But a lot of it may also be the pesticides and the things that we spray our crops with that are not allowed in other nations, right? That research shows really deteriorate your gut lining. So glyphosate being one of them destroys the integrity of your gut. And we spray it on everything, and leaky gut isn't, I would dare say an epidemic in this country.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the majority of testing that I do with clients, because I'm also able to order labs and do stool testing and things like that. I see high zonulin levels. And what that zonulin is, this protein that keeps the tight junctions of the cells in the small intestine together. That's a barrier, right? And over time, when that zonulin goes high, and gluten is one of the main contributors to high zonulin levels, those junctions weaken and spread apart over time. So food proteins and things can leak into the bloodstream, and then your body mounts an immune response like, hey, this is not supposed to be here. And over time, autoimmune disease can develop and things like that. So
under-counter foods that can help with that, like if you eat bread, you eat pastas,
mm-hmm.
and if you combine that with, I don't know, ginger or something, I don't know.
Yeah, it depends. Is it a true allergy, right? Or is it just an intolerance? Is it something that just, dairy makes you a little gassy, but you're willing to have that, put up with that in your life here and there in order to have ice cream once in a while, to each your own, right? But for something like, with my daughter's situation, she cannot eat it.
Right. When did you notice this?
Just given the field I'm in, I've tried to keep her mostly gluten-free for the majority of her life. But as she got older and started preschool and kindergarten and birthday parties, she wanted to have the pizza or she wanted to have the birthday cake. And so, the things here and there, cool. And then she went through a phase where it was a cool thing for her and dad to go get hamburgers together. That was their daddy-daughter date. Awesome. And then she just went through this period of 6 months where she was just complaining of severe stomach pain every day for a straight 6 months. And, kind of keeping a mental journal for myself of what she was eating and when she was having these reactions. And then I said, let's really try more of a strict elimination and see what happens. And she was better. And then I ended up ordering labs myself to look at stuff that was going on for her. And she definitely came back with super skyrocketed zonulin levels. She has a genetic marker for celiac disease.
What age can you start testing this stuff? And what age would you recommend for parents to do this to their kids?
If they're noticing overt symptomology, yeah.
But even without noticing anything, do you think that?
I think it's with labs are expensive. I will preface, right? So you may not want to just jump straight to doing a $400 or $500 stool test. But if you know that your kids are eating heavily processed foods, the first place to start is to just clean that up. Get the colorings, the preservatives, the flavorings out of there, the red dye 40, all of these things, right? It doesn't mean they can't ever have treats, right? But choose ones that are whole ingredients or homemade if possible, with healthy ingredients, right? Get them eating quality proteins, fruits, vegetables in their diet. Start there.
What if I came and told you, as soon as my child is born, I would like to have all the tests done so I know what their markers are and what they're, what do you think of that? You think that's weird? Too much?
Probably. There's research to show, that newborns are born with chemicals already in their system, right? Residue of pesticides and plastics and things like that, because mom is ingesting them.
I see.
So super important to be mindful of what you're consuming, when you're pregnant.
You would say probably even 9 months or a year before you're thinking of having a baby.
Oh, absolutely.
Clean your system up.
Absolutely.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Preventive.
Yeah. And cultures did that. Ancestral cultures, just that was something that they did. They sent couples off to the like special fertility prep tents, to like consume organ meats and
yes,
fish eggs and all of those like nutrient dense, like powerhouse foods, to support their systems and prep and get ready.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So how does science today help us way more than, let's say, 50, 100 years ago?
I mean, we have access to like these cool new techniques, right? I mean, just to be able to send a camera down inside someone's stomach to see what's going on, right, is pretty cool. Yeah. And the fact that we can do like microbial testing. There's a whole ton of literature now, like coming back to the autism thing, looking at fecal transplants in children with autism and how having somebody else's basically fecal matter transplanted into their microbiome can fix some of the dysbiosis that's going on and actually alleviate some of the symptoms of autism. No, it's wild. It's wild.
So you 100% sold on the fact that the autism is a gut issue?
Not 100%. It's definitely a genetic condition, right? We know there are genetic markers, but there's tons of genetic markers. We know, though, that autism is not a purely genetic disorder. So I've actually worked with families with identical twins where one will have autism and one doesn't. And they share 100% of their DNA. So what is happening there? Right? So it's what we call a diathesis stress model. So it's like we have the genetic predisposition for something, but what turns that switch on or off? It's our environment. It's the toxins we're exposed to. It's the foods we're consuming. It's the state of our central nervous system, right? Because a big part of us, we have to be in this, what we call the parasympathetic state when we're eating, right? We need to be relaxed in order for all those digestive processes to happen the way that they're supposed to. So if we're constantly in that, like I said, stressed out state, that's going to impact that. And your adrenal health is very closely tied to your blood sugar as well. So again, we need to make sure that those things are all in check.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You notice a big difference between females and males?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the majority of my clients tend to be female. Yeah.
It's because men don't complain.
Or they'll brush. I think they're more likely to brush symptoms off.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think that's the case.
That's the case.
Yeah. But not always. I have a couple of male clients here and there. So yeah.
What do you think about the whole, stored, we talk about stress, the stored pain? So you hold your stomach, you hold your pain in your stomach, or...
Oh, it's absolutely, right? That's the whole gut-brain connection. When you say, oh, I have butterflies in my stomach, or, it's just a gut feeling I have,
I see.
Yeah, they're so closely tied. So your gut and your brain communicate directly through what we call the vagus nerve, which is the major nerve in our body. And in order for that to function well, we have to be in that parasympathetic state. Mm-hmm. So, it's a two-way. The brain communicates to the gut and the gut communicates to the brain, right? So if you ever think about a time that you've had to give like a really big talk, I know I can tell you when I had to do my dissertation defense, I was a mess and I was in the bathroom a lot that morning, So yeah, it's definitely a two-way street that our mental state can dictate our sort of digestive reactions. But the state of your gut and your microbiome are also going to, the majority of your neurotransmitters are produced in your gut. Think about that. And then that's sent up to your brain through the blood-brain barrier. So,
I'm trying to, like I mentioned before, but, just you should parent plan before. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, how much help would this be? It's just my mind thinking, okay, how much help this would be to an individual if they pre-plan as much as they can.
Yeah.
Which means like do your full DNA test.
Yeah.
Get your, from day one, and then kind of plan I don't want to plan your life accordingly, but kind of plan ahead and say,
right.
I know what from day one the baby is born, okay, it's like their, their birth certificate.
Right.
This is what you come with,
Right.
DNA wise, your background, all that stuff. I mean, I get the point of people, people marrying before, like they know the family.
Right.
I get that. I get it's beyond than just, the status.
Yeah.
I think there's a certain, compatibility and things like this that affect. And the more the more okay, this is where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Why am I not able to handle this stress situation, but I'm very good at this stress situation? Right? So then
yeah. I mean, we all come with a unique set of cards.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? For sure. And we may be, perfectly healthy, and then all of a sudden we're dealt like a really crappy hand of cards for what reason? No one knows, right? I went through that with both of my parents. They were both, my dad had a brain tumor, and my mom was diagnosed with a really rare lung disease that impacts 1 in 1 million women. But so those are things they didn't necessarily have control over. But does the way that they took care of their health and the foods that they ate, had they done a better job with a lot of that, would that have increased their longevity or their ability to fight certain things? At this point, we don't know. We can't go back in time, right? But I'm pretty certain that it would have helped a lot. And that's sort of what drives me too. I went down the opposite road because I was like, I don't want to be that when I'm 80 years old, So,
there's definitely a big movement.
Yeah. Well, my husband and I had kids later in life too. So I'm like, I got to make sure I'm around for them. That's important.
Even when you suggest to people, you got to cut out the gluten, they're not going to implement a lot of those things for obvious reasons. Difficulty of life, they find this to be their thing that gives them motivation, or, and you even mentioned that they'd rather go to the bathroom after it and still have their bread. Okay. So, but you also said, you'll meet them
right
at where they're at.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So, I mean, if a client is coming to me, like that's even the psychotherapy model, right? Like there are different stages of change. There may be like someone who's pre-contemplative. They're just starting to think about maybe making some changes, but they're not quite there yet. Versus someone who's just like, I'm done feeling this way. I've hit my rock bottom. Help me. I want to do all the things, right? Like, so there's a certain degree of motivation, I think, that's in place there. We have to keep in mind that food is like the one thing that we have control over, that we nourish ourselves with. So, we use it to soothe ourselves, right? And some of that can be wonderful. And like, if you think about a family sitting around a table together, enjoying food and laughing, like that's a beautiful thing, right? But if we're sad and lonely and exhausted and we are just using something to kind of, numb ourselves with to make us feel good, like there's something under that we need to maybe look at, that emotional relationship with food, right? Especially if it becomes problematic, or if that's maybe the food that's driving your inflammation or your gut issues, et cetera, right? Whenever a client is coming to me, I'm kind of assessing, where are they? What are their symptoms? What's their primary complaint? Where do they want to be? Like, why are they coming to me, and what's on the other side of that? What are they hoping to get out of this working relationship, right? Because it's not just me telling you what to do and fixing you. Like, I can give you the outline and the guideline, but you're the one that has to implement it, right? If you really, truly want to see change, right? You're the one that's grocery shopping and cooking and putting the food in your body. So, short of hiring a personal chef, right? And who has necessarily the money to do that. So, I see the working relationship as very collaborative. So I'm here to help guide and educate and give you tools and tips and resources. But at the end of the day, you have to do it. And if this is going to be how you have health and longevity in the long run, you've got to be willing to put that work in. Right. So, I use a lot of motivational interviewing with clients. So, if somebody says, God, I'm just so tired of feeling this way, it's me asking them, like, in your perfect world, what would that look like? Okay. And what are some of the steps that we could that you could take in order to get there, right? And so like helping them like really visualize what it would be to make those changes and how it's going to feel in their body and like how are they going to get there? Like helping them map that out almost. That's sort of the psychological piece you're talking about, right?
I completely get it. But you don't think that if they come to you, they already come with a problem, which means they're already augmented in their mind. They're not thinking clear. There's no way that they're going to start all of a sudden make a decision. Yes, I'm going to go do it. So what if I tell you, like, why don't you just go and say, don't eat this, I'll kill you. Just go like really harsh and say, you know what, you got to be strict. Give me 1 month. Don't do anything. Just
and sometimes I do.
Oh, you do sometimes.
Yeah. For someone that's coming in with like severe sugar addictions, like I might put them on a strict like 30-day, like no sugar challenge, or I even pull out fruit, like just to retrain their taste buds to like not be constantly looking for sweet, you know? So, but some clients are like, whoa, I can't do that. Like that really is triggering for them. And so, you know, it depends on the individual.
Yeah.
And their willingness to put in the work to see the change they want to see.
I try to think of how to get to a point where they not just trust you, but put you as their captain and say, you know what, I'm going to do whatever she says. It's 100%, like a sergeant almost.
Yeah.
You know, how do you get to that point where you're able to direct them in that sense? Is it a trust issue or?
I think so. Or it may be, I mean, I have clients that have come to me that have been suffering with like severe GI pain for 20 years. And they've been to every specialist and every doctor who's run every test, who's told them everything's normal. But they don't feel well. And so they're like, just tell me what to do. I will do anything you say because I'm so tired of feeling this way. Like I can't live the rest of my life in pain, you know? So maybe it is hitting that rock bottom. I don't know, you know?
Did it work?
I mean, there's progress being made. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's just slow. I mean, if it took 20 years to get to that point, they're not going to be better overnight. Right. So like when I work with clients, I usually do like 3 sessions over the course of 3 months because we'll meet, we'll do an assessment. I'll give you my recommendations and then we'll meet again a month out because it takes some time to implement some of those things, right? Dietary changes, maybe it's some supplements that we add in to deal with like digestive stuff or gut health or blood sugar. And then, you know, the way we buy food and cook and prep food, like that has to become habit, which takes time to, you know, it takes 21 days to build a new habit. So they have to have time to implement that. And it takes time to see those changes. And sometimes you feel instantly better within a week.
Is there like a top 3 or top 5 things that, you know, are most common? Leaky gut?
Pretty much. Yeah. Leaky gut.
What else?
Chronic fatigue, I would say, just like constant brain fog and fatigue is something that a lot of people.
Well, that's a symptom.
Yeah. But in terms of a diagnosis, is that what you're asking?
Like,
or
yeah, like what's it? There's this like worms or
parasites.
Parasites and what's the famous one? There's one that's. Can you name a few?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what like a specific parasite or pathogen?
Yes.
Like E. coli.
E. coli, right? Things like that, right?
Yeah.
What are the most common, would you say?
So it's hard to say it's exactly this parasite unless you've done that comprehensive testing, right? Like stool or lab work to show this is actually what's in the body. Otherwise, it's going to be driven by symptoms, right? Like if you have a parasite, you may have like constant bloating, diarrhea, or constipation, or, brain fog and fatigue and autoimmune stuff going on. But it's hard to say that that's driven by a parasite unless you actually know there's a parasite in there. So
yes, but after the test, I'm saying after the test, what do you usually notice? Most common, would you say?
Gluten intolerance is a big one.
Is a big one.
It's massive. So even for people that don't have overt digestive symptoms, it may be that they have like constant acne or skin irritation or that brain fog and fatigue that's driven by a lot of that. But it'll, on the testing, you'll see those markers really elevated. What else do I see? I mean, if someone's getting other lab work in addition to stool testing, I always have them get like inflammatory markers tested, blood sugar, like their fasting glucose, fasting insulin, and their A1C, which is like a snapshot of your blood glucose over the last 3 months. That's going to tell me like how well you manage your blood sugar and how, well your metabolism is working. So people with a higher A1C are going to be moving toward that pre-diabetic and diabetic range. So those are some of the big things that I see. Yeah.
Adults or kids more?
Both. I mean, I tend to work more with adults, but even in kids, I spent years working in schools and even in homes, right? And the stuff that I was seeing kids eat, like whether they were having the school provided lunches or the home provided lunches, they were equally terrible.
Terrible, yeah.
Frozen Uncrustable sandwiches and goldfish crackers and fruit snacks. That's not a meal.
It's not a meal.
It's not. I always try to say that food does not have morality. It's neither good nor bad. It is, right? But what we know is that some foods are more health promoting than others, right? So an apple is going to be more health promoting than apple flavored fruit snacks, for example, right? How much processing went into making that food what it is, right? The more steps it had to go through to become what it is, the more inflammatory it's going to be to your system.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Got it. Well, yeah, obviously whole foods is what we want.
But what I was going to get to with the kids is that the constant sugar and coloring and preservatives and additives are driving mood imbalances, and they're driving energy production issues, right? Where they're tired all the time, or, the hyperactivity and then the crashing kind of stuff, and their inability to focus. And there's research to show that by pulling a lot of that stuff out of the diet, we can improve that stuff drastically.
Yeah. I mean, habit forming is important, right? With kids.
Yeah. For sure.
For sure. Yeah.
And the earlier you can present that, the healthier options to kids, the better. And it's not just what do you present them, right? Do you give them a bunch of vegetables and chicken, and then you're sitting and having ice cream and Pop-Tarts, right? It's modeling. It's sitting at the table together and saying oh, we eat healthy foods in this house. And here's, it tastes so good. Broccoli's got this crunch to it, or it's got, whatever. And talking about it. And research shows that it takes I think it's 12 to 15 exposures of a food before a child will learn to tolerate it.
Right.
So you can maybe say, well, I've tried to give them broccoli 2 or 3 times and they just don't like it. Keep trying. Just keep trying.
Yeah, that's my model too. For sure. Yeah. So you're saying, is there a way to fix the whole gluten thing? Because we love gluten.
Yeah.
So
it's delicious. I've been gluten-free, I think, for 15 years. And
wow.
When I go to a restaurant and they bring out that nice warm basket of bread, I still want to get a piece of that,
Oh my God.
But I've gotten to the point, there would be times where I would screw it. I'll just have one piece and I'll put up with a little bit of reaction. But I've gotten to the point now where for years, it's just not worth it to me. I don't want to feel unwell. I want to feel my most vibrant self. I want to think clearly. I want to move well. I want to have the energy.
How strict are you in your diet?
I'm very strict.
You're very strict.
Yeah. I'm going to have my indulgences. I have my glass of red wine here and there, and I eat a piece of dark chocolate every night before I go to bed. That's my thing.
Uh-huh. Right. But you have a system.
I have a system. And I just have gotten so in tune now with my own body, right? And this is a big thing that I work on with clients, right? We're so bombarded with all this information from everywhere else about what we should and should not be eating, that we have completely disconnected from our own innate knowing of what our body needs. Because your body does know. Your body will tell the difference between what a beautiful, colorful, fresh salad is going to do for your system versus French fries, right? One is going to elevate your body more than the other. And it doesn't mean the French fries are bad. It's just they're not as health promoting as the fresh whole foods, right? So I get to the point now where I crave salad. If I haven't had a salad for a day, like I got to get my hands on one because it just keeps me clear, like a clearer channel to do the work that I want to do in the world, you know?
What's a salad for you? Like leaves?
Dark leafy greens. I always tell people I want to have 5 colors on every plate. You need to be eating the rainbow, not Skittles, but, you know, bell peppers and radishes and a variety of leafy greens, you know, cucumbers and tomatoes and like whatever you can get in there. I always throw broccoli sprouts on top of everything because they're so good for you for detoxification and your liver health and all the things. So, yeah.
Doesn't that depend on your lifestyle? I mean, if you're training, if you're doing certain type of work, or doesn't that change your diet?
Yeah, it means you've got to be really good at planning ahead. You know, there's ways to do it, but you've got to, like, if you travel all the time for work, you've got to know you're going to research ahead of time. Where is the health food store or whatever, the main grocery store that I'm going to go and I'm going to get X, Y, and Z. You know, I'm going to make sure there's a mini fridge in my hotel room.
So you do that?
Oh, absolutely. And I take bags of supplements everywhere I go. It drives my husband insane because I'll travel and, you know, I'll have like a little bag of white powder. And then I always get nervous. Like, what if TSA takes it? And I'm like, collagen. I got to write that it's my collagen peptides on the front of it, you know, because that goes in my coffee every morning. And I travel with my own coffee.
No kidding. What do you think of that guy with what's his name? He's promoting his whole, you know, want to live forever.
Is this the vegan longevity guy?
Yeah. Is he vegan?
I don't know. I
don't know what he is. But he's like spent millions and billions of dollars to take his son's
biohacking stuff. Yeah. I mean, there's some truth to some of it, right? We can also take that stuff way too far. Right? Like, we also have to like...
Sides. What's far?
Yeah.
Some people look at you, they think that's far.
I mean, maybe, right?
That's just how do you decide? How do you decide where the line is?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're spending your sole time and focus on like, how am I going to be like 120 years old when I die?
Yes.
But you've missed your kids and your family and like relationships and getting out in the sun and having fun. Like, you know, you have to, it's all, you got to take it all in stride, right? And just do the best that you can.
Bottom line.
And we live in a toxic world. So you can never be like completely devoid of toxins in your body. Like, it's the air we're breathing, you know?
Yeah.
So you can do your best to minimize its impact, right?
I got to ask you another question that I think is very, very important because I think it's inevitable. AI. It's coming along, and I ask this with everybody I am talking to because I think that it's going to be here. It's already here. And do you think that your job is going to be obsolete? Well, obviously, many jobs are going to be obsolete. So the question is, does that make sense?
I don't know that I've really truly spent enough time like diving into learning all the ins and outs of it. I mean, I just think about, you know, I have a lot of different credentials, so I do a lot of different things, but like, could somebody just chat with an AI bot instead of coming in to see a therapist? Sure.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know. I'd be curious to see like a randomized controlled trial of like who gets the better therapeutic result, like the AI bot versus a person-to-person like therapeutic relationship. And I mean, and is there a ton of nutritional content out there that you could get through ChatGPT? Probably.
Yeah. It's funny.
I don't know. I think there's a lot to be gained from the interpersonal relationship.
Yes, exactly.
Even just sitting here with you having a conversation, right? Face to face.
Yeah.
Like we talked about, instead of doing it over Zoom or whatever. Like there's a different feel.
100%.
To everything that
there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
That's where I always come down to as well. Doesn't matter what industry you're in, that it's at the end of the day, who is the person that you're going to be? That human connection is that difference between the AI and I mean, I don't know how much it can replicate. I don't know if you believe in energies or whatever flow. I don't know. I'm an artist, so I think
I
that flow as well. You know? Yeah. So do you think that at this point, what's his name is doing regarding health, RFK, with everything that he's trying to implement in health?
I mean,
Or do you think it should be left up to the person at the end of the day to decide?
I think there has to be some sort of infrastructure in place to help educate, right? I mean, there's hordes of people that just do what the food pyramid says, right? Or what became the move from the food pyramid to the My Plate, right? That Michelle Obama put in place. So if people are looking to the government to provide a guideline or some sort of structure to things, then I think we owe them that, to put something that's actually correct in place. I think if we can really do what he's saying he's going to do and take some of the toxins out and get some of these ingredients that are banned in Europe, banned in this country, great. We need that to really go back to regenerative farming,
yes,
and agriculture. Like, that's what we have to do in order to heal.
Yeah.
A lot of what's happening, right? We'll see. I guess time will tell if he's going to do all the things he says he's going to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go back a little bit to the symptoms of gut health.
Yeah.
So there's brain fog, there is fatigue, falling hair, falling teeth. No,
so here's the thing. There's all kinds of microbiomes in our body, right? We have an oral microbiome, we have our gut microbiome, and those all impact other systems in our body. So your gut health in particular drives immune function, it drives cardiovascular health, it drives brain health, like skin health, like it's all connected. So, someone could come to me with 100 different symptoms. They could all go back to gut health, whether they're like overtly like GI related or something completely different.
Yeah.
Right. Migraines, cystic acne, foot fungus. It all comes back to gut health.
Interesting. You ever fast?
No, I like food on a regular basis way too much.
Yeah. Have you tried it though?
I kind of stick to like a general window, right? The research shows that in order for your gut to function well, you need to have moments of fasting, right? So like a good 12 to 14 hours overnight for most people is sufficient. So if you stop eating at 6 p.m. and you eat again at, 8 a.m., you're good.
Yeah.
I think, especially for women. And then if you're active, here's the thing too, like I go to the gym and I do heavy resistance work. Like I'm realizing now the importance of that, especially for longevity. I'm no longer working out to look cut, right? Or have a booty that pops or whatever. I want to be able to put my suitcase in overhead storage when I'm 75 because I'm going to travel and enjoy my life, right? And I don't want to rely on other people. I want to be strong enough to do that. I don't want to fall and worry about breaking my hip and ending up in a nursing home. So working out and fueling for that activity appropriately means getting quantity of protein in your diet, right? Especially as you age. The older you get, the more protein you need in order to maintain muscle health. To be that traveling 80-year-old.
You definitely do a whole person approach to gut health, which I think is important. Yeah. So what does that have to do with how do you approach the whole psychological?
So it depends. If somebody comes to me with like binge eating disorder or, any kind of disordered eating patterns, right? I'm going to be working on like the mental and emotional relationship with food, like getting them to learn to tune back into their body and trust their body again, right? There's a lot of psychological work that happens there.
I see.
Yeah. I can't just say, oh, well, you just need to eat more or you need to just not binge at night. You're fixed, right? It doesn't work that way. We have to get at the root of why, what's underneath that, what's going on for you emotionally. Is there some trauma history? Is there something that you're medicating with food, over? So
that's interesting.
There's a lot of things.
Do you think that on a general scale that people in your position, gut experts, doctors, whatever, should have more of a whole body approach in general?
Absolutely.
Because you think there's no way to treat it as a single thing. It has to, you kind of have to, because many people probably come to you that really don't even know what the issue is.
I mean, I think for many, many years, the body and the brain were seen as two totally separate things, but like we're clearly connected, So
how far do you take it?
We're mind, we're body, and we're spirit. And we
how
have
far
to
do you take it with your psychology? Do you say, okay, tell me about your day, how many kids you have, what kind of wife you have, or, kind of husband you
if
have?
someone's coming to me and I'm trying to help them with dietary changes, I need to know, like, what is your family makeup? Do you have a spouse? Are you cooking for a whole family? I don't want them to be like the only one. Well, my husband's not going to be on board with eating the way that I need to do these changes. My kids definitely won't eat that. So like, what are some tips and strategies? How can we do this to like maybe make this more health promoting for the whole family? Right? Or how can we help build a plan that's going to help you be more successful to get where you want to be in the long run? Right? So, I mean, I definitely take into factor all of that kind of stuff. How stressful it is just to try to get 2 kids out the school or off to school out the door in the morning. Like that's a lot.
That is true, but it's not really your job, right? To plan or help them to plan their life. If a girl or a guy is a high-end CEO or something, and they come to you, they're like, my company is struggling.
Sure.
I have these symptoms, right? How are you going to help them? I'm like, hold on, let me tell you about your.
Yeah, but it might mean helping them kind of plan their days differently to build in the lifestyle strategies that are going to help bring that like central nervous system, calm it down a little bit so that they can be in a place to be more open and receptive.
I see.
To implementing the dietary changes. So my plans always include food first. Like here's the dietary changes we need to make.
Okay, so that's number one.
There's also supplemental stuff. Like if someone's just like dealing with severe reflux or gastrointestinal pain, like I'm going to put them on a host of different supplements to help like get their system calmed down and their digestive process working properly. And then, if there's something like an overgrowth or a parasite, like we're going to put them on a protocol to deal with that. So it's food, supplements, and then it's lifestyle stuff too. Making sure that we're not staring at blue screens, blue light late at night, that we're wearing blue light blocking glasses, or we're getting up and looking at the sun first thing in the morning, getting our vitamin D and resetting our circadian rhythm, or just taking a few deep breaths before you eat can do wonders to just like calm everything down so you can actually produce that stomach acid that you need to break down whatever you're eating,
Right.
So many of us are just like, oh my God, just like eating while we're driving, like we got to get to the next thing, it's like we need to just slow down.
That's valid.
So,
if somebody tells you, I function better when I'm moving fast.
I would say that there's probably part of that they're kidding themselves. And maybe right now, because you can get to the point with adrenal stuff where like you're zooming, but eventually you're going to tap out.
Right. You're saying steady is better. Yeah.
So
got it.
And sometimes it's the season of life we're in, right? Like I've been exhausted and stressed out because of the current situation of my life, and I have 2 small kids, but I'm not going to send them away. So I know that sometimes my kid woke me up 3 times last night. So I took an adrenal support this morning that's going to help me not like crash this afternoon. Some adaptogens that are going to just like keep my cortisol levels in check, right? So there's natural things that we can implement.
What did you take?
So I take a product that's got a host of different adaptogens. It's ashwagandha, rhodiola, schizandra, eleuthero, a couple other things in there. So it's adaptogens kind of help your body with what it needs that day, and especially great nutrients for adrenal health and cortisol production.
So you're for in general, beyond whole foods, taking supplements and things like that. You're for that.
Yeah. I think, should we just keep eating a standard American diet and then just take 20 vitamins a day? No, absolutely not. It definitely needs to be food first, right? So should everybody be taking a probiotic? Not necessarily, but I want everybody to be eating fermented foods, and good fiber in their diet to feed the beneficial bacteria in their gut. Get some sauerkraut, some kimchi, some kombucha, all of those things in your diet, right? Yogurts and kefir. That's going to help with the robust nature of your microbiome. But if you can't stand those foods and you just can't get them down, then take a good quality spore-based probiotic to cover your butt,
Got it.